Good evening, everyone. Recorded by Richter here, back with a new segment in my continuation of Detroit Month here on my channel. The artist I'm covering today is FROSTisRAD and his band AV Club. It was important to me in covering the music of Detroit this month that I make sure my audience doesn't box Detroit in and think it's singular. The truth of the matter is the city is incredibly culturally rich and has been at the forefront of damn near every trend of groundbreaking music since the dawn of popular music. Whether it be soul music of Motown, or techno, or punk rock. I say all that to say that I wanted to cover a wide range of styles this month because the city is so eclectic with its taste and music scene. My first episode covered jazz, hip-hop, and soul fusion, my second on hip-hop, and now my third I'm going to dive into the world of punk rock and emo, or as Frost himself would affectionately dub it, Detroit Emo. FROSTisRAD carries in the tradition of black artists making rock music that sometimes gets whitewashed or overlooked in the history books. But really, when we take the time to look and pay attention, black punk rock bands here in the city go all the way back to the 70s. I'll get there eventually, but let's start with Frost and AV Club. Jeremy, who we've all come to know as FROSTisRAD, first got his start in music behind the lens as opposed to being the focal point that he is now. Frosty cut his teeth in videography, doing music video work for the likes of Detroit Royce da 5'9", Chiodos, Marv Won, Eric Bellinger, and D12, just to name a handful. Frost has even done jobs with MTV and VH1. But the desire to be in front of the camera, working on videos of his own, has always been in him. According to his interview with E-Man with Runner Magazine, my podcast partner, Frost started rapping on some battle rap type-ish his freshman year of high school, but as his musical taste broadened, so did his rapping style. As he started listening to bands, he started adding melodic elements to the raps he would make. He stated that his early influences were artists like Eminem, Kanye West, Blink-182, Chiodos, Gym Class Heroes, and even Kid Cudi. Now, I'm going to take you to a little bit of how my story crossed paths with Frost. So around 2018, or maybe 19 at this point, actually, I think it was 19 at this point, E-Man and I were well underway with the Beats, Brews, and Points of View podcast, and E-Man had kind of put Frost in my path here. So I got hip to him from E-Man, and E-Man invited him on the show, and when we sat down with Frost in 2019, he already had the vision for what he wanted to do. He knew that he wanted FROSTisRAD to be more than just a singular thing. He already had the vision for AV Club, which would eventually be the name of his band that he plays live with. And AV Club, to him, he wanted it to be more than just music. He wants it to be video production and movies, and the sky is the limit for Frost. He is a visionary and has his head on a lot of different ideas, and he's really good at the execution of it too. He has now been out playing with this band that we know, AV Club, and I'll take you a little bit through the personnel of that band. You have FROSTisRAD on lead vocals, and he's kind of the idea man behind this whole thing. And then AV Club, as I just mentioned, is a group of 4 other guys. So you have VA on keys and bass, Animal on guitar, and Devin on drums. And in reading E-Man's interview with the band a little bit, it looks like VA and Devin both got their start playing in church. And all of these guys have eclectic styles and taste in music. Their influences come from all over different kinds of sounds. And I think that goes into Frost dubbing their style Detroit Emo. You could just write that off as something, trendy or something to say like that, but what he means by Detroit Emo is what the city of Detroit represents. It's a melting pot. We have super eclectic styles of music coming out of this city, and it's always leaked into different avenues and ways of recording music. So I think when he said Detroit Emo, he was incorporating all those sounds that make up the city and putting forth some really compelling emo and screamo. Frost can really get his scream on, and to do that in pitch and in tune is crazy to me. I've seen the man do it live. In fact, you know what? Let me cut to a little bit of him doing that right now. Okay, now that you have seen that, I want to kind of take you to this new song that he's going to be releasing very soon. And this is something that's kind of been in the works and they've been playing out live, and now it's about to have an official release, and that is a song called Too Many Beers. Now, originally, we were affectionately calling this System of a Down freestyle, but you know how copyright things work, and I don't think that would fly on their official release. So they have dubbed it now Too Many Beers. And you could, at surface level, say that this is just some, party song, some fun pop punk party song, but I think that this song is actually relatively deep, because the chorus is "Too many beers, the system is down." And man, that speaks to me, because as you've seen on this channel, I used to be quite the party animal and now have taken a sober route and have been trying to get my own mental health together over the last couple years. And that describes exactly how I was feeling leading up to quitting drinking. Too many beers, the system is down. It wasn't working for me anymore. Sometimes, when you're caught up in that lifestyle and the fast partying aspects of music, you just feel lost in your head. You feel like the system is down, like it's not functioning, it's not working well up there. And for me, I had to make a change in that, and I had to get rid of the beers for my system to boot back up and work correctly. So I really think that that song is very, very strong. And he had a couple of pretty big people working on it. And one of the people that I would like to talk about is Alan Dusches. Alan Dusches is a producer. He does mixing and mastering. And Frost, I've been talking to him over the last few days about doing this, and he was like, look up who we got to mix this thing's resume. I was like, okay, let me go check it out. So I just thought it was so impressive that I had to read it out to you. So not only is he a Grammy-winning producer and engineer, mixer, but let me read off a little bit of his credits here. And this is off IMDb's page. Some of his notable film and TV credits are Horses, Patti Smith, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Time Can Break Your Heart, Seasons, The Peloton, and The Golf Channel. Now it says he's mastered over 16,000 albums with artists in practically every genre of music. Some of the most notable music credits include Sufjan Stevens, Promise Ring, Animal Collective, Converge, Brand New, The Dillinger Escape Plan, Chelsea Wolfe, Grandmaster Flash, Saves the Day, Mastodon, Trans Am, Fatboy Slim, The Chemical Brothers, Basement Jacks, Yes, Train, Ben Folds 5, Hole, Decemberment Plan, Run DMC, Fleetwood Mac, The Slackers, Pete Townsend, and Monster Magnet. Like, that's just so crazy to me. Like, that's such an impressive list of credits there. So I just thought that was cool. And then also they have a guitarist who works with Big Sean in his live show on this project, or on this song, I should say. So I just think really, really impressive. And to hear, Frost sent me a little early listen on the final product, and man, they really knocked it out of the park. So I'm really proud of Frost. These guys, you can catch them all over Detroit and Hamtramck playing live right now. They do all kinds of different shows, and they're really cutting their teeth there and really honing in together as a band, and it pays off. I saw them, Loki out of Weirdo's Gang, put on this art raps show in Hamtramck that I recently saw Frosty perform at, and I was just really blown away and had such a great time. So I wanted to make sure that I come on here and highlight them. And then also I'll link in the description E-Man's article with Runner Magazine that he did, and whatever performance stuff that I need to do. I think I'm probably going to put some into the episode as well. But being that I just gave you that information, I wanted to also cover a few other things. And I wanted to cover a little bit of a history lesson here as far as black artists making rock and punk rock goes. I alluded to this in the intro, and it would be a good opportunity to give flowers to artists that helped create and popularize rock music. Whitewashing history goes back many generations, and I'm sadly guilty of it too. On the Beats, Brews, and Points of View podcast in 2023, I broke down the history of punk rock music as the weeks went on. And while I did include Bad Brains in my analysis, all of the other bands I covered were white. I didn't do this intentionally, but when you go to researching punk rock, it's just what's readily available to you. So as important as bands like the MC5 are over there, I got their Grandy Ballroom poster, and bands like Iggy Pop and the Stooges are, when it comes to the creation of what we affectionately call punk rock, there was also a lot of black bands that didn't get the coverage. So that's what I'm going to do right now. In 1971, out of the rubble of the decimated city of Detroit came a all-black band called Death. Brothers Bobby David and Dennis Hackney founded the band and really built a buzz with their live shows. Originally a funk band, they decided to switch to a harder and faster rock sound when they started getting influenced by people like The Who and Alice Cooper. They built such a buzz that they even caught the attention of Clive Davis at Columbia Records. Now, Clive wanted to sign Death to a record deal, but he wanted them to change their name to make them more marketable. While in staying true to the art form of punk rock, they turned down the deal and created their own label called Triangle as a means to get their music out. Unfortunately, white supremacy reared its ugly head, and Death struggled to get airplay without the backing of a major label, and Death disbanded in 1977. Well, they had recorded 7 songs already with Clive before this disagreement started, and in 2009, Drag City Records took interest in their music and would get their older recordings from the 70s released. And then in the next couple years following, in 2012, they would become the subject of a documentary about them called A Band Called Death. To this day, all the remaining members still write and perform music as Death and under different band names and styles. In 1974 now, another band emerged in this same ilk of music, and they came out of Philly and later relocated to New York. And this is a band called Pure Hell. It's reported that Pure Hell was very influenced by the sounds coming out of Detroit at the time. Pure Hell was known for their wild fashion and gymnast-like theatrics live. Much like Death, Pure Hell was plagued by the racism of the time as well. They also had major labels taking interest, but wanted to change their name and involve themselves in creative control. Their resistance lost them other label deals and show opportunities, and by 1980, the band would call it quits. And much like Death, their 1979 master tapes were discovered in 2006, leading to a revival of sorts. Now, a couple years later, in 1976, out of the DC area arrived a band that would put everything else to that point to shame in the world of punk rock, and that would be the aforementioned Bad Brains. In the words of the Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea, they were better than everyone, cooler, harder, and faster. They would sort of grandfather the hardcore punk scene, although they never enjoyed the label hardcore. Followers of the Rastafari movement, Bad Brains were actually heavily influenced by reggae and funk music, but adopted a way faster and harder style of rock. They've influenced many subgenres, including heavy, thrash, speed, and funk metal. Unlike the two bands I mentioned before, Bad Brains would see success and have released 9 studio albums to date. They have broke up and reformed countless times with many different lineup changes, but the core members of the band that everyone knew were singer HR, guitarist Dr. No, bassist Daryl Jennifer, and drummer Earl Hudson. And that lineup would remain the same until 1987, and that's when they started to change and take breaks here and there and do all kinds of other stuff. So those were three main important ones that I wanted to give a little bit of story on. I'll post links to their different information about them and articles I use to gather information. So all the sources will be cited below. But moving on from them, there was also bands like A Living Color in 1988, Fishbone in 1991, Rage Against the Machine and Body Count in 92, and so on. And I could do full episodes on these bands, but because they're more well known and to keep this from running super long, I'll let you go look them up if you somehow haven't heard of them. I also wanted to mention that in 1985, Vernon Reid of In Living Color created BRC, the Black Rock Coalition. This was an anti-racist support organization for contemporary black rock musicians that still exists today. Moving on into the 2000s, you'd see an emergence of a lot more black rock bands in the underground space, and some would even break through, like TV on the Radio. The band, in my opinion, have released some of the most compelling rock music of the last 25 years or more. The albums Return of the Cookie Mountain and Dear Science remain very influential pieces of music, and I will get into their history at a later date in a different video, as I have another artist highlight coming up soon. That is for their singer Diont'e, as he just released his very first solo album titled The Black Bolts, which I actually have back there. It actually doesn't come out till Friday, but I pre-ordered it, so I got mine a little bit early. So there is value in purchasing the album sometimes too. But that's mainly what I have for you today. I wanted to make sure that I highlighted our boys FROSTisRAD and AV Club, and also I wanted to give a little bit of a history lesson and backstory on some black rock bands that have been overlooked over the years. So that is the gist of what I have for you today. I will be back with more Detroit month stuff. I've got stuff in the world of techno and the world of jazz and big band stuff to cover, so expect a wide range of things to come for the rest of this month. So with that, I will leave you guys. Peace.